Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the blogcast for SeanVanDyke.com. I'm Sean Van Dyke, and I'm a construction industry consultant, business coach, and a mentor. Now, I wouldn't say that I'm your host because this isn't exactly a podcast. There are no guests, no high-dollar production, and no agenda. I just want to make it easy for you to get the information that you need to run a better construction business. So every time I publish a blog post, I grab my microphone and record an audio version of the post so that you can listen to the content anytime, anywhere, and use this information to run a better construction business. All right, with that said, let's dig into the blogcast. On today's episode, I'm going to tell you about 3 methods to calculate the price of your construction projects. Now, I understand that listening to me talk about math formulas can be difficult. That's why I recommend, when you can, go check out my blog post where you can see the formulas and the examples that I describe in this blogcast. Okay, with that said, let's dig into these methods. And remember, you can't guess your way to profitability. You must calculate it. As I've written before in Fast, Accurate Estimates, see the blog post and it links back to that article. But in that post I said there's only one way to be successful in pricing construction projects. That's to know your numbers. Construction is a cost-based business. You have to know your cost for any given project and mark up those costs by the appropriate amount to determine your price. In this blog post, I review 3 pricing strategies to ensure you are making a profit in your construction business. Your price, and therefore your markup, must be high enough to cover your expenses and leave a profit. And here are the equations that you must know in order to determine your price and to ensure that your price yields a profit. This is the most important equation that you need to know. Everything is based on this. Price equals cost times your markup, or what I say is your markup factor. Price equals cost times markup. Another equation, your profit or your net profit, is your income minus your cost of goods sold minus expenses. Those are the 2 key equations you must know. Now, let's define some terms. Costs, these are cost of goods sold, or COGS, C-O-G-S, cost of goods sold. And these are the items that you buy, you mark up, and you sell to your clients. These are the items that you leave out in the field, or the result of these items. For a construction business, the COGS, or the cost of goods sold, are usually labor, materials, subcontractors, and equipment. Your expenses are everything else. So, for example, your cell phone isn't something that you buy and sell to your clients. Your cell phone is not a cost of goods sold, it's an expense. It's very hard to operate your business without a cell phone, therefore your clients need to pay for that expense. The income is defined as the total amount of money you receive for the work you perform, or the sum of all the prices of all the individual jobs you produce in a given time period. So those are the terms we're going to be dealing with here. Costs, cost of goods sold, usually labor, materials, subcontractors, and equipment. The expenses, well, that's everything else. And your income, that's all the money that comes into the business. So now that we have those terms defined, let's look at 3 different ways to calculate the price for your construction projects. And if you are priced correctly, then you have the best opportunity to make a profit. Pricing method number 1 is the cost-based method. And this is working on the original formula that we talked about. The most important one, price equals cost times your markup, or your markup factor. So step 1, determine your cost. Determine the cost of goods sold for your labor, materials, subcontractors, and equipment. Step number 2, multiply your cost by your markup factor to determine your price. So for example, if your markup is 30%, then the markup factor is 1.3. Don't guess at your costs. Calculate what these costs are. And if you're starting out, you may have no idea what things cost. So do the hard work and figure this out. Don't guess. Call other professionals. Do your research. And at the risk of sounding self-serving, hire a coach or get a mentor. Surround yourself with people smarter than you and with more experience. Ask questions. If you don't know what your markup should be, then read this article. And I link to another article here on my website. Pricing method number 2, the price method. Let's assume that you know you can sell a product or a service for a certain price, but you aren't sure if the price is high enough to cover your costs. Then use the same equation from method number 1, price equals cost times the markup factor, but it'll be formatted in this way. Price divided by your markup factor equals costs. So for example, if you know that a project should be priced at $20,000 and your markup factor is 1.5, then you can calculate the cost of the project by dividing the price by the markup factor. So the equation looks like this. Costs equals $20,000, that's your price, divided by your markup factor of 1.5. And that equals $13,333. Now you can calculate the cost for this project, the cost of labor, materials, subs, and equipment. So if the cost exceed that $13,333, then multiply the calculated cost by 1.5 and sell that number as the price. So we started off with the price, we divided by our markup factor to determine what our costs are, or what our budget for the cost should be. And in this case, it was $13,333. Now we need to do the hard work and actually calculate what the costs are to check and make sure that our price is enough. And if the cost exceeds $13,333, then take whatever cost you just determined, multiply it times your markup factor. In this case, it's 1.5, and that's your new price. So that's the price method. Pricing method number 3 is the margin method. Let's assume that you have calculated your costs and you want to determine the price based on an assumed margin. The equation for this method is price equals cost divided by 1 minus the margin. Now, I know this seems a little complicated if you're just listening to the blogcast. That's why you need to go and check out the blog post so you can see how this formula is laid out. But if your calculated costs, let's say, for example, your calculated costs are $10,000 and the margin that you need to make is 40%, then the equation looks like this. Price equals $10,000 divided by 1 minus 0.4 or 40%. And that equals $16,667. Again, refer back to the blog post so you can see these numbers in action. But this pricing method is useful when your expenses increase because of growth of the business and you want to determine the new price at which you need to sell a project. The methods listed above are 3 ways to calculate the same result: price. And profit must be built into everything you build. The only way to realize a profit is to calculate your costs and apply the appropriate markup to yield the margin that you need to pay for your expenses and leave you with a net profit. There's no other way. You can't guess at profitability. You need to calculate it. Need help streamlining your construction business? Sign up today to receive a free copy of the Paperwork Punch List. 28 days to streamline your construction business. And this book is available exclusively for free at SeanVanDyke.com/thepaperworkpunchlist. That's SeanVanDyke.com, SeanVanDyke.com/thepaperworkpunchlist. Hey, Sean Van Dyke here. I just wanted to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen to this audio post. Email me any questions or comments you might have at my email address, which is connect@SeanVanDyke.com. That's CONNECT @SeanVanDyke.com. And let me know what you think. Thanks so much.